I am flabbergasted. Okay, so it's 8 a.m. It's Tuesday, January 31st. And I look out the window and there's snow outside. Hold on. There's a mesh screen, but you can kind of see the roof is covered in snow. And I'm just like, there was no snow on the ground yesterday. And I know it's winter and I know we're in Massachusetts. But I don't know why I thought I heard rain. I'm like, okay, so it's raining today, that's fine. But I don't know what it is about this winter, but either the meteorologists are not predicting that there's snow, or they're predicting the snow's going to start later than it actually does. Today's the day where I get my stuff together, okay? Let's say that. I've taken everything since Christmas off, okay? I was working on Storm Cloud. I was over 100 pages into the drafting process. I think I'm way more than that, but I don't remember. And I've taken, written down a couple of ideas of stories and stuff since then, but like I haven't really worked on it until we were in the airport in Finland about to come back. I started reading through Storm Cloud from the beginning because I thought it's been so long. It's been over a month since I've looked at the story. At this point, I'm out of the story. I don't remember stuff. So I need to start reading through it from the beginning, and that'll help me also just get back into the frame of mind so I can start thinking of ideas and start looking to see what threads have I laid down that I need to pick up again. Through the flights and everything on the way home, I read through chapter 4. So I need to make a list today of all the things that I need to do to get my life together at this moment. Now, I don't have a job currently because I'm on my grand tour, my gap year, which is going to go on for a little longer than a year. We're still trying to figure that out, but we're 7 months into it, and we've kind of been taking it easy, taking it laid back, not doing a whole lot. But my idea of this grand tour is that it's not just about traveling to places that I want to go. It's about self-improvement. It's about learning new skills. It's about finishing my gosh darn manuscript of Storm Cloud. Finally, the actual finished. So I can start going on submission and get this story out of my brain so I can move on to bigger and brighter things. But I also have just administrative life tasks. I have a couple of family things that I have to deal with. And taxes are here now. Taxes need to be done, because life just doesn't stop because you don't have a job and that you're traveling the world and whatever. So, last day of yoga today. Let's go. Hi, Mr. Henry. Okay, I'll leave you alone now.
We did it, and it has been a true honor to be on this ride with you.
Good morning. It's 10 a.m. It's February 1st. Working on my story. I'm reading through it this morning. Like I said, I'm reading through it chapter by chapter, making some line edits and just trying to get back into the story, refresh my mind of what's going on. And I'm currently, I started reading chapter 8. I'm in the middle of it, and then I realized that there was a continuity error. What happened was I had an item in chapter 8, and then I wrote a scene where the item was completely forgotten about. So now I've decided that I'm just going to remove any mention of the item before this, and then I'll just have the item exist after this. And I was working on my tablet, but the tablet is really good for line edits and just reading through and maybe copying or moving a sentence from here to there. But it's hard to do larger edits in the tablet. So I've opened up my laptop, and I'm gonna go and make this change on my laptop, and then once I've made the change, well, there's a baby coming over here. My nephew's coming over here today, so we may not have a whole lot of time today, but once I've made the change, I'm going to go back to working on my tablet because I really like doing that. And I don't use my tablet very often, so it's nice to find a use for it. Tomorrow I have a dentist appointment in the town that I used to live, which is an hour away from here. I'm going to use that time to listen to my audiobook. The story that I'm reading is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, and I found out my mother-in-law is reading The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which I read like a year or two ago. So I just thought that was so funny that she happened to be reading the same author as me. It's mystery thriller. It's very much in the trope of one of my favorite tropes, which is a bunch of people are on an island and then someone dies. Hey, Helen. I was just working on my manuscript and look who came up to say hi. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Okay. Oh my gosh, Helen, I'm obsessed with you. Look at her beautiful eyes. John says that she has Disney princess eyes, and I totally agree. It's like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. That's exactly what her eyes look like. My camera's not doing it justice, but they're very like golden brown. And they're beautiful. Let me show you what I just bought. Index cards. Multicolored index cards. There's 12 colors. I normally have my index cards for scene planning. I can write a scene on each card and then move it around if I'm trying to figure out the best order of things. Part of me is wondering if I should like assign it where each color is for a certain type of scene. Like maybe one is for character development and one's for foreshadowing. Greetings, it is February 9th. It's like 4 p.m. or something, 4:30. I'm here with little Goosey Boy. Look at him sniffing around. I went to Barnes & Noble today. I was there for about 3.5 hours. It is the first time I've gone to this Barnes & Noble and like sat at the cafe. He's like a little cat sitting on top of the couch. I had like two or three chapters left to finish reading to catch up to where I left off in December, where I last finished writing. So I just quickly breezed through those, and then I caught up to where I'd left off. Having read the beginning of the scene that I'd left off at, it gave me some momentum to just write up something to finish the scene. And then I wrote a whole new other scene, which was not too long. So I didn't actually measure how many words I wrote today, but it was probably like 1,500 words, something like that, if that. So I'm glad to have finally wrapped up the scene where I'd left off at, and thus wraps up part 2. So I literally had stopped writing in December right before the end of part 2. I could have just persevered. Next I start part 3. So as I was looking ahead to like my index cards and my scene list and my outline, I realized that what I had listed as the order of scenes for part 3, I need to completely rearrange it. It starts off with 2 of the characters' relationships further progressed than they actually should be at that point. And I also want to make one of my side characters' side plots a bit more prominent, or move it, or even like have her scenes come a little earlier in part 3. And then I figured out what my character's arc should be within part 3. Part 1 was basically establishing the status quo of her life and then changing it, right? The initiating event, she's propelled into this new world. Part 2 was kind of breaking down everything that she has ever known and believed and loved and taking those things away from her. So she's basically been broken down into, I want to, like, not nothing, but like she's basically going to be like a blank canvas in terms of like being able to now rebuild herself in part 3. Who is she now? What does she know now? Who does she want to be? These are the things that we're going to explore more in part 3. Hello. So I was at the cafe for a couple hours, maybe 2.5 hours, and
my whole goal was just to figure out part 3. Took out my index cards, had my notebook and my outline open just so I could like reorder the scenes. And what it came down to is I realized that I didn't really understand the distinction between parts 3 and 4 of my story. There are 5 parts altogether. So this is like kind of the middle section of the story, the middle bulk of the story. And I realized that part 3 is about Grace being able to rebuild herself after having lost everything in part 2. And then part 4 is about all the truths becoming exposed. So once I had that figured out, I went into my index cards, and reordered things. So I don't know that it's perfect, but I think it's pretty good for now, at least good enough to start moving forward in terms of continuing to write the next few chapters. On another note, 2 albums came out today. Paramore's new album, This Is Why, came out today, and then Tennis's album, Pollen, came out today as well. From the Paramore album, I love the song Big Man Little Dignity. I listened to that like 10 times today on my drive and in a cafe. And then from Tennis, I love Let's Make a Mistake Tonight and Pollen song I thought was really funny, so I like that one. Also in the playlist, we have Levitate by Lapsley, Baby Lay Your Head Down by Ali and AJ. Yes, they are still making music and it is incredible.
Good morning. It is February 13th, Monday, and I just wanted to show you a little something that I drew last night while we were watching the Super Bowl. I'm covering up something that I wrote down on it, just because I don't want you to know the name of it yet, but this is a little tree house that my main character, Race, and her family live in Japan. So I am by no means that great at executing drawings and things like that. I don't want to say I'm by no means an artist because that's not true. Just maybe drawing is not it's not usually my medium of choice, and it's certainly not where my skills tend to lie. That being said, I am very proud of this drawing because it came out way better than I was expecting it to. But I also drew 2 maps of 2 locations in my story. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner, like drawing maps of places in my story and even just drawing elements of things in my story, because I was able to learn so much about the world. Like one of my locations, I was able to divide it into districts. I was able to take like this restaurant and that location and that castle and whatever and put them where they are located in what district and where the rivers are and where the mountains are. The next step for me this morning, kind of a late start to the morning, but I am currently reading The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I only just started, and so far I've just read the introduction. I definitely made a really big breakthrough when I was reading one of the sections, and I may or may not put up a video where I digested that. I already filmed it. So today is week 1, and I've got to do my morning pages. I haven't done that yet, and then after I do that, I'm going to dive into week 1, which is about recovering a sense of safety. It is 6:25 p.m. Now, I was at Barnes & Noble today for like 5.5 hours. But let me tell you what I did. I went through part 3 again, and I thought about it more thoughtfully to figure out the order of scenes, thinking about what made sense, what needed to come after what would be the consequences of certain scenes and what that might lead to and how that would influence the order of things. So I was very thoughtful about the order of things, and I'm very happy with it now. Every now and then I go through and I change the part names or whatever because I get a better understanding of what each part is actually about. And so the quote and the name of the part just need to reflect that. So yeah, that's what I did. And then I wrote chapter 16, which is the first chapter of part 3. And yeah, I think I wrote like 2,000 words from scratch. And then I just reviewed a scene I'd already written way back when, just to make it make sense with what had just happened previously in the chapter. So chapter 16 is done. And then I went through and I updated my word counts for each chapter. So chapter 16 came in at 3,216 words. I had to update my proudest moments page in my notebook just to reflect my work today. And I have that feeling that I haven't had in a while. Leaving Barnes & Noble, where the caffeine is probably wearing off from my Earl Grey tea,
and there's this anxious excitement in my chest. That's how I feel when I've had a really good writing session. And combined with the fact that I was singing at the top of my lungs as I drove home. I mean, have I really been to Barnes & Noble if I didn't sing at the top of my lungs on the way home? Like, no, I don't think so. I, Sydney, am a brilliant and prolific writer and creative. 10 times. I'm actually starting to believe it. Hello, so it's the evening of February 16th, and I have just finished transcribing the scene I wrote in a cafe yesterday. The next thing to do is to copy and paste part of a scene I wrote a while ago for a different draft. Today, I wrote down in my notebook, let's see, I think like 3 pages. Yeah, over 3 pages of notes this evening, right before dinner, where I was fleshing out a new idea that I had while watching Avatar. But it doesn't look like it's really going to change anything that I've already written. If it changes anything, it's going to change stuff going forward. Basically, it takes like a persona non grata and it kind of brings that into the story more. So instead of it just being like this background thing that kind of happened that has like a little bit of an effect on the current present day situation of the world, now it brings it into a thing where it's going to be a bit more active in how it affects Race's story and the story of the world and whatnot. Hi, so I'm back from the cafe, and I just thought I'd recap that I broke into my new notebook. I was continuing to flesh out that new plot line that I added in last night, and I figured out that it does a good job of fitting in where I don't have to go back and do too much really, maybe except for to plant a couple of seeds. But going forward, it does change a couple of things, but not in any major way. It's more like it just kind of adds to things. I was at the cafe for 4 hours, got a parking ticket because I only paid for 2 hours. This is why I've come to really enjoy going to the library, because not only do I not have to pay for tea while I'm there or food to feel obligated to be there, I don't have to pay for parking either, and I can walk there, and it's a good way to get some exercise if the weather is nice. So so I finished chapter 17. So next is chapter 18, which is another chapter that has to be written from scratch. The entire thing. It's like 3 scenes in the chapter, and they all have to be written because I haven't written any of them before. Greetings. My headphones look weird. I just wanted to quickly mention this website that I have found kind of recently that is quite helpful in a story like mine, where there's a lot of people who have a lot of different roles of power or authority. It's called formsofaddress.info.
I can link it down below, but basically it's like anyone from a member of royalty to a member of a council or a form of government, even just general, like normal people. Like, how do you address them? How do you refer to them in a sentence? If you had to write a letter to them, if you have a character in conversation with an authority figure, how do they address that authority figure? Honorifics and that kind of thing. While I'm here, another website that I absolutely love is behindthename.com. This is my go-to website whenever I need to name a character, especially if you're talking about characters who are from other countries, other places in the world, other cultures. Yeah, it's definitely like expanded its name database for non-Western names, which is really good. And it's also got user-submitted names. So it may not be verified, but it's still a good place to find name meanings, surnames as well, first and last names. So I don't know, but I'll link these two websites down below. It's a snowy day today. Okay, I did not expect to wake up to snow again, but it's nice to have another snow day because I honestly thought winter was over. We had a lot of 40 and 50-degree days. I love this cat. I just wanted to document how good I'm feeling this morning and how blessed I feel. It's been a very simple morning. The dogs woke us up. Helen has this thing where she'll wake up in the middle of the night and just start barking across the house because she thinks she sees something. Maybe she does, but it's not worth waking us up with. That's for sure. Despite that rough start to this morning, I had a dream that I was flying. That was lovely. And then I sat and I did my morning pages for The Artist's Way. I'm in week 2 and I have this beautiful journal. I did that in my father-in-law's office. He was there, the dogs were there, and my husband John was there. And we were drinking our tea and coffee and just looking out at the snowy day. And I was just writing my pages, and it was just such a simple moment, but it was just really nourishing for my soul. I just want to say that I just finished chapter 18 after not writing for like 3 days, and I feel good. I set a timer for 30 minutes, and I just was like, I don't exactly know how I want this chapter to go, but I just need to get it down. So I just wrote something, and I was like, if it's complete crap, I can scrap it later, but let's at least get something down. And as it turns out, pleasantly, I actually kind of like what I did. It's very different than I was expecting it to turn out, and it was shorter of a scene than I was expecting. But still finding good, and now I can move on to chapter 19, which I'm actually really looking forward to, because something really cool is going to happen. Hello, this is a special angle. I have a sinus infection because my in-laws are getting the kitchen renovated, and there was a crap ton of dust, like so much dust from like sanding that the guys were doing. And it was tarped off and everything, but when they lifted the tarp and we went inside the kitchen just to look at it, I breathed in so much dust. This is like 2 or 3 nights ago, that my body just like effed me up, and it's now developed into a sinus infection. I'm pretty sure it's a sinus infection anyway, according to Google. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling. But anyway, I'm working on chapter 20, and it's a conversation between my main character and her friend, her new friend, and they hit it off like really easily. They're having a conversation that they've had in an earlier draft. But however, now I need to tweak a bit of the information because she doesn't know as much about him as she has by the scene in previous drafts. Does that make sense? So I have to go back and look at their past conversations to see how much they know about each other, just so I can see like what specific details she would already know versus what would need to then be introduced. So that's that. And it's snowing again, and we have a few inches, maybe 1 or 2 inches so far. It's definitely winter still. And I have to sneeze. for like the 250th time in the last 3 or 4 days. Hi, Henry. Hi, buddy. Look at you. You're so cute. You're so cute. Yes, you are. Greetings. I just figured that I update you on what I've been doing the last week or so since I last updated you. Excuse the blue squares on my glasses. My laptop is over here. So a couple of things. For one, I am in the middle of chapter 21. I'm working on a scene between my main character and her friend. I'm including a big kind of character reveal moment in this scene, and I am trying to figure out how best to include it. He's kneading the blanket next to me. I'm trying to figure out how best to include it. So I've been working on this chapter for a couple of days. Actually, I didn't work on it yesterday, but a couple of days ago, me and my husband went to the library and got a study room, and we were just in there hanging out for like 3 hours, even though you're only supposed to be in there for 2 hours. But nobody else was, it seemed. There was no competition for the room. It was like afternoon, evening, so didn't feel too bad about it. But it was wonderful, and I finished while we were there chapter 20. In the middle of chapter 21 now. There are 23 chapters in part 3. So I have decided that I would like to be done with this draft no later than May 31st of this year. So that is a little over, that's almost 3 months from now. That's a long time, but it's going to be a busy time because one, I am on chapter 21 of my story, of which there are 38 chapters. So even once I finish this, there are like, 17 chapters left or something. So that's quite a bit. We'll be traveling for like 2 months out of that, but also during the next 3 months is Camp NaNoWriMo for April. So it's just going to be a lot of stuff to squeeze in the next 3 months. And so I think 3 months is realistic and honestly might be a bit of a challenge. But I'll just show you this schedule. Finish draft 13 by May 31st. And I laid out the first day of each week. So March 6th is Monday, 13th, all the way through to the last week of March, and what I need to do during that week. So if I finish chapter 21 this week, then next week I have to do chapters 22 and 3, and the week after that, chapters 24 and 25, and etc. If I keep on schedule, we'll finish the last chapter of the book by April 24th that week. But then that leaves me the entire month of May to do any catch up if I fall behind, to go through my running list of changes, which is just like as I work on a draft, if I decide that I'm actually going to change this detail about the story or whatever, but I don't want to like go back to the beginning and change that, then I just make a note of it. And then at the end of the draft, I'll go through and start implementing those changes all the way through. So I'll give myself about a week to do that. And then I have a list of possible plot events, things that could happen, but I haven't found where in the story I want them to happen. So I'll just look through that list and see if there's anything else. Otherwise, I can continue catching up or doing my writing list of changes. And then the last week is final review and touch-up. So I don't know what exactly that entails at this point, but it could entail reading through the draft one last time and making any edits, touch-ups, that kind of thing. This is the idea, assuming I don't lose interest or need to take a break or something at any points. But the whole goal of doing 2 chapters a week is so that I have something to keep me occupied when I do write, but also don't necessarily need to work on it every single day. So hopefully there are built-in breaks as we go along. Some chapters will be really quick, just reading through and tweaking a couple of details, but a lot of these chapters will probably involve either writing entire scenes from scratch or making drastic edits to scenes that already exist. And I'm hoping that there is a good mix of that as we go. So if at any point I am able to finish my 2 chapters in a week and then jump ahead to do next week's chapters, that would be great, because I'm sure that I will need that as we go along. Yeah, so we're going to be leaving Massachusetts soon and on to the next adventure of our grand tour. I thought I would wrap up the vlog here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.